Welcome back to the deep dive. Tonight, we're moving past some of the easy labels history gives us. We're looking beyond just madness or tyrant when we talk about Emperor Caligula, Gaius, Julius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus.
Yeah, the sources we're diving into, they paint a really different picture, don't they? Not just random chaos. It looks more like a terrifyingly calculated attack, a systemic one aimed right at the foundations of Roman life.
Exactly. And we're going to immerse ourselves and you, the listener, in a single notorious night. It's detailed by witnesses. And this night, it really serves as a kind of horrific blueprint for how Caligula aimed to shatter the Roman spirit.
hmm So the mission today is to unpack how he used desire, his supposed divinity, and maybe most chillingly, the law itself as weapons.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine you are a Roman senator. You've been summoned to dinner, Palatine Hill. Sounds like an honor, right? A sign you're still in favor, still powerful.
Right, but the moment you walk through those marble halls, the silence, it's oppressive.
You enter the triclinium, the dining hall. The air is thick, but it's not, perfume or the usual smoke from sacrifices.
It's dread. You can almost taste it. Anticipated dread.
Yeah. Oil lamps are flickering. The light makes the gilded frescoes on the walls look like they're moving, writhing almost. You look around, you see the most powerful men in the Roman world. Senators, magistrates.
But all that political swagger, the usual talk about legions, grain shipments, politics, it's gone. Died in their throats.
You see details, right? Marcus Lepardus gripping his wine cup, knuckles white, like he needs an anchor.
And Gesenius, normally a big personality, just staring at his plate, at the honeyed dormice, not even seeing them.
They feel like kids, don't they? Waiting for some unpredictable father's verdict.
That's it, exactly. And that fear, that systemic fear, that's the first key. That's what we need to understand. We're looking at how state power was strategically weaponized by a man who, let's not forget, the Senate itself had declared a living god.
Right. The nickname Little Boot Caligula, it feels almost quaint, doesn't it? Compared to the monster he became.
Completely. Our sources show a ruler who wasn't just breaking rules, he was proving he was above them. And worse, that he could use the very things Rome valued, its bureaucracy, its laws, to normalize horror.
Yeah.
To fundamentally change what it even meant to be Roman.
So the dinner starts, and Caligula, he doesn't bother with small talk. He claps his hands. The sound just cuts through that silence, like a blade dropping.
Yeah. And he announces, tonight isn't about tradition, it's about exploring the flexibility of Roman virtue. His words.
Chilling phrase. And then he drops the question, right for the heart of Roman society. Tell me, senators, he asks, what is the most sacred bond in Roman society?
And you can imagine the pressure. It demands instant obedience, but also the right answer. Senator Flavius, the sources say he was visibly shaking, gives the only answer possible to stay alive in that moment.
Which is?
The marriage bond.
Okay. But why is that the only answer? Let's unpack that a bit.
Well, for Rome, marriage wasn't really about romance in our sense. It was the absolute bedrock, the foundation of the mos maiorum.
The ancestral custom, the ways of the elders.
Exactly. The mos maiorum was like Rome's unwritten constitution. It demanded things like gravitas seriousness, dignity, and pietas duty to family, state, gods.
And marriage was central to that.
Absolutely central. It was the institution that produced legitimate citizens, kept property lines clear, ensured the state continued. It was social and legal glue. So if you attack marriage, you're not just committing some domestic offense, you're basically committing treason against the whole structure of Roman stability.
Okay, so Caligula gets that answer.
Yeah.
And then he uses it, right? He builds his divine argument on it.
Precisely. He turns it back on them. He asks, well, if the Senate gave him divine honors, divine privileges, divine appetites, then what human law could possibly apply to him?
He's using their own sycophancy against them.
Totally. He reminds them of the myths, Zeus taking Europa, Zeus taking Leda, Io. Did the claims of their mortal husbands matter to the king of the gods? Of course not.
It's sickeningly clever rhetorical maneuvering.
It is, because they declared him a god. Now he's just saying, okay, I'll act like one. I'm just exercising my divine rights.
And then he makes it concrete, real, not just abstract talk.
Right. He stops right in front of Senator Cassius and his wife, Livia, who is described as stunning.
Livia. That name has echoes, doesn't it?
Huge echoes, as the sources point out. Augustus's own wife, Livia, was famously taken from her husband, Tiberius Claudius Nero, while she was pregnant, no less.
So Caligula is deliberately invoking that history, twisting it with this divinity claim.
His gaze settles on Cassius. Predatory. And he remarks something like, Casus was blessed by fortune indeed. And
Ominous.
then adds, but fortune, senators, is fickle.
Wow, the air must have just frozen. You imagine Livia, this embodiment of Roman dignity, trained her whole life for this role.
And in that second, all that training, all that gravitas, utterly useless against absolute power. Pointless.
And the horror isn't just for Casus and Livia, is it? It spreads.
Instantly, every married couple in that room feels it. Every wife sitting there realizes, that could be me. That will be me if he chooses.
Their breathing gets shallow. The slaves, who usually anticipate every tiny need, they just melt away. They sense it too.
It's pure psychological terror, because he hasn't actually done anything physical yet, but he's already invalidated every social contract they rely on.
He's shown them that their titles, their wealth, even their wives, they're just temporary possessions, held at his whim.
Yeah, he's reduced the powerful Senate to a room full of men watching their world, political and domestic, just collapse. And they know that saying anything is basically signing their own death warrant. It would be impiety against a god, ruin for their whole family, their familia.
So this whole setup, this psychological breakdown, it's the perfect preparation for whatever comes next.
Exactly. The ground has been prepared.
And then he claps his hands again. Finality in the sound this time. He tells the Praetorian Guard to escort everyone to a new part of the palace, something he says will be educational.
And that's the shift, isn't it? From the terror of the dinner party, the philosophical horror, to something institutional, mandatory horror.
So they're marched out, a procession of forced compliance.
Yeah, imagine walking through those familiar palace halls, past the busts of old Republican heroes, past Augustus, Tiberius, their stone eyes just watching, judging maybe.
And they arrive at this new wing. The doors themselves are apparently something else, carved reliefs, drunken parties, dark forests, hints of what's inside.
And the doors swing open, and the space, it's designed to overwhelm. To obliterate memory, maybe?
Describe it. What do the sources say it looked like?
Over the top, opulent, but unsettling. A huge hall, massive columns, but made of black marble veined with gold. Strange, right?
Yeah, not typical Roman taste.
No. Ivory couches everywhere, inlaid with jewels covered in silk cushions. Tables just loaded with cosmetics, perfumes, jewelry.
It's obviously a place for commercial vice.
Yeah.
But done with the emperor's resources, imperial scale.
And Caligula apparently unveils it like a masterpiece, calls it Rome's true heart.
Rome's true heart. What does he mean by that?
Well, this isn't some hidden shame for him. It's a public statement. He justifies it by saying the nobility must serve the empire in its most fundamental capacity.
He's turning aristocratic bodies into state assets.
Yeah.
Commodifying the ruling class itself.
Precisely. It's cynical genius in a horrifying way. He's not just being depraved, he's making depravity into state policy.
Yeah.
And economics.
Economics. How does that work?
Well, he lays out the elegant economics, as he calls them. He argues beauty is a resource like grain or gold, and resources should be shared for the common good and, crucially, generate revenue.
Revenue? For who?
For the imperial treasury. The sessions conducted here, the money paid goes straight to the state, and the participants, they get a cut. They're basically state employees now.
Wow. There's even an anecdote about a merchant, isn't there?
Yeah, the source mentions a wealthy merchant, Lucius Vitellius, coming out from an encounter, looking smugly satisfied, and he nods to Caligula, like congratulating a business partner on a good deal.
So the social hierarchy is completely flipped. The merchant class, the equites, who the senators look down on, they're now paying the emperor by buying access to the aristocracy's families.
That's exactly the inversion. And the participants, they are Rome's elite. Daughters of patricians, wives of knights, even the sons of the senators standing right there watching.
There's that one specific example, Senator Marcus Aemilius.
Yeah, it's haunting. The sources say he makes this sound like a choked animal. He sees his own daughter.
His daughter, who is just married.
Just married 6 months before. Now she's sitting on one of those ivory couches, wearing only jewelry that apparently signifies her price. And she's just silently sobbing.
Let's just pause on that. If you're a Roman senator, your entire identity, your family's honor, it's tied to the reputation, the chastity of your daughters, the dignity of your lineage.
Absolutely. It's fundamental.
To see your child married under sacred Roman rites, reduced to this, under contract, it's the utter destruction of everything you stand for. But you can't say a word.
And that silence, that inability to speak, that's the core of the terror. Caligula's built this inescapable trap. And the contracts, they make it even worse than if it were just random violence.
Oh, so? the contracts?
Because they provide a veneer of legality. And when someone objects, or maybe even thinks about objecting, Caligula throws Roman history back in their faces. He references the foundational myths. Your ancestors raped the Sabine women. You sell your daughters for political alliances. He argues he's just being honest about what Rome was always built on: violence and coercion.
But how did they get them to sign these contracts? High-status Romans signing away their children or spouses like this?
That's the legal framework, the real horror. The sources stress these were proper Roman contracts, witnessed, sealed,
Why would anyone sign?
for very specific, very compelling reasons. There's the example of young Marcus, related to one of the senators there. He owed a ridiculous amount of money, 500,000 sesterces.
Which is how much in context?
Astronomical. A legionary soldier, a centurion maybe, might earn a few thousand a year. 500,000. That's family-destroying debt. Catastrophic.
So crushing debt was one reason. What else?
Well, Caligula or his agents would conveniently call in these huge debts, or they'd fabricate treason charges against family members. Signing the contract was the only way to save them.
Blackmail, essentially.
Absolutely. But the most chilling reason, according to Caligula himself, casually mentioned,
Yes.
a few signed simply because I asked them to, and they discovered that saying no to a god carried a price. Just pure, unadulterated power.
So the bureaucracy makes it seem legitimate. It turns chaotic violence into calculated, sustainable state policy.
Yes. And the victim is forced into participating in their own degradation. They sign the paper. They certify their own ruin, which means they can never cry foul without admitting their own complicity.
They can't be innocent victims if they sign the contract.
Exactly. And for you listening, that distinction is key. Tyranny isn't always just lawlessness, is it? Sometimes, like here with Caligula, it's the meticulous, almost administrative corruption of existing law, using the system itself for monstrous ends.
It's the difference between a highway robber and a government that makes robbery its official tax policy.
Perfect analogy. And in doing that, he destroys the one thing the Roman elite prided themselves on: their moral integrity, their dignitas.
It's the destruction of the Roman spirit, using bureaucracy as the weapon, proving that even the strongest laws, the oldest traditions, are just paper-thin, easily torn away when the ruler claims to be a god.
Right when the senators are reeling from the systematic brothel, the atmosphere changes again. Another escalation.
This is when Drusilla enters, Caligula's sister.
Yes, and her entrance signals something new. She's wearing a stola, a robe, but in deep purple silk, the imperial color, reserved for the emperor.
So that alone is a huge statement.
Yeah.
Unprecedented status for her.
Massive. And her appearance is described as unnerving. Her eyes are too bright, too fixed. Like someone seeing visions, the sources say.
And Caligula's reaction to her.
His whole demeanor shifts. The cold, calculating manipulator, gone. Replaced by this twisted affection, almost possessive. It hints at a bond that's both incredibly intense and deeply unnatural.
She interacts with the guests.
She glides past the senators, stops near Caesar's wife again, Livia, but she examines her differently this time. Not with desire, but with this cold, clinical scrutiny, like someone observing an object.
Detached.
Completely detached from human feeling. And she says something chilling about mortality, something like, immortal women here today, wrinkled tomorrow, dust the day after.
Wow. So the point isn't just exploitation anymore. It's about setting the imperial family totally apart from humanity.
That's it. It's an explicit claim of divinity that reduces everyone to just temporary things, objects.
And then comes the announcement. The one that's maybe even worse than the brothel because it attacks natural law itself.
Drusilla announces, but Caligula speaks the words, their upcoming marriage, his marriage to his sister.
That must have hit them like a physical blow. Incest. Marriage between siblings. That was absolutely forbidden in Rome. Fundamentally illegal.
It wasn't just breaking a law. It was seen as violating the fundamental order of things, the thing that separated Roman civilization from, barbarian customs, the ultimate taboo.
Does anyone react? Does anyone dare?
Senator Lepidus, the same one gripping his cup earlier, terrified, but maybe clinging to the last shred of the republic structure, he manages to stammer out something about the law forbidding it.
And Caligula's response.
Total dismissal. I am the law, Lepidus. I am Rome.
Chilling.
Isn't it? He basically says when he speaks, when he desires something, it doesn't just become okay, it becomes necessary, it becomes true. That's the moment the mortal ruler completely dissolves the line. He is the divine mandate now.
So how do they even try to justify this? An act that the entire society sees as fundamentally wrong, Depraved.
They frame it entirely in terms of divine purity, religious necessity. Drusilla claims they're just following celestial precedent. She cites the gods, Zeus and his sister Hera in Greek myth, Osiris and Isis in Egypt, sibling deities who married to keep the divine bloodline pure.
And Caligula backs this up.
Oh, absolutely. He argues that royal divine blood must remain pure, undiluted. He uses this analogy. You wouldn't mix the finest Falernian wine with vinegar, would you?
Okay.
Only another child of the gods, meaning Drusilla, is worthy to share my bed permanently.
The implication being.
The implication is deadly clear. If only Drusilla is pure enough, then everyone else in that room, every senator, every patrician, every noble matron, they are the vinegar. They are impure, unworthy of permanent connection to the divine emperor.
Reduced to, what? Temporary playthings, resources.
Exactly. It's the ultimate insult to the Roman nobility. By claiming this divine purity for himself and his sister, he systematically reduces the entire ruling class to the level of biological objects, animals, maybe, unworthy of his lasting attention.
And Drusilla's comment about dust the day after. It drives that home. They see themselves as having already ascended beyond human morality altogether.
They're not just breaking the rules anymore. They are the rules. And everyone else is just mortal, flawed, and ultimately disposable.
So the night just keeps getting worse. After the brothel, after the incest announcement, he moves them again.
Yes, he ushers them into the palace atrium, another stage for his education.
The atrium. That's traditionally the heart of a Roman house, isn't it? Where the family altar is, where you greet clients, a civic family space.
Precisely. But it's been corrupted, too. The impluvium, the pool in the center that usually catches rainwater, it's been transformed.
What?
It's now filled with dark red wine, heated wine. The sources say it catches the lamplight like liquid garnets, and there are rose petals floating on top.
So he's physically replacing the traditional Roman hearth with Dionysian imagery?
Exactly that. He's dedicating the heart of the Roman home to Dionysus, or Bacchus, and Venus, replacing pietas with foreign ecstatic abandon. It's a powerful symbolic act, erasing the old ways.
And then performers appear.
Yeah, figures emerge, trained performers, clearly, wearing light, flowing robes. They start chanting.
Chanting what?
In a strange language, unrecognizable. The sources speculate maybe archaic Greek, maybe something older. The point is, it sounds ancient, mystical, creates this atmosphere of primal ritual.
And they get into the wine pool.
They disrobe and slip into the wine. And Drusilla explains the symbolism. The wine represents transformation.
Transformation into what? What's the goal here?
Transformation by shedding your Roman identity, your civic constraints. Drusilla claims that bathing in the wine washes you clean of your old identities, your old limitations. You become, supposedly, something new, something more than human.
Apotheosis through abandon, becoming gods through debauchery.
That seems to be the idea. It's state-sponsored, enforced loss of self, forcing the senators and their wives to discard their Roman virtues, their dignity, their duty, and adopt this new identity of pure, unregulated license.
And then the masks. That's another key element.
Absolutely crucial. Servants bring out these masks, comedy and tragedy. But they're not cheap theater props. They're crafted from silver, gold, studded with gems. Works of art, but deeply unnerving.
Why masks? What do they represent here?
They are the mechanism for dissolving identity. Drusilla spells it out perfectly. Masks make identity fluid. She says something like, the shy senator's wife becomes a passionate courtesan. The stern patriarch becomes a playful satyr. Reality becomes negotiable. Responsibility is outsourced to the mask.
The psychological impact must have been immense. Forcing Rome's elite, people defined by their public persona, to hide behind a mask.
It gives them license, doesn't it? License to shed a lifetime of repression, of upholding that gravitas.
And the sources describe the effect.
They do. They say once the masks are forced onto the guests, and it is forced, the world itself seems to change. Colors get brighter, sounds sharper, and the eye holes of the masks made of metal and gems, they seem to peer back at you, enforcing this new persona.
So it's not just hiding, it's becoming someone else.
That's what Caligula claims. He declares that wearing the masks lets them begin to see as gods see.
How so?
Beyond the petty categories of right and wrong, he says. Beyond the artificial constraints of law and custom. The mask isn't just a disguise, it's an enforced identity shift. It's divine permission, bureaucratic permission, to act on impulses they've suppressed their whole lives.
And this guarantees their complicity, doesn't it?
Totally. Because you're not just watching the horror anymore, you're participating. Wearing a shield, a mask that absolves you of moral guilt, at least in the moment?
So if you lose your dignity, if you engage in these rites while masked, you can never report the crime later, not without admitting you were part of it. A co-conspirator in your own degradation.
Precisely. It's another layer of the trap. Psychological and social entrapment, orchestrated through ritual.
So the night descends into this. Enforced chaos. A blur of wine, masks, abandon. Until morning.
Yeah, the inevitable morning after. Dawn light comes through the windows.
Yeah.
And it reveals the wreckage.
What kind of scene do the sources paint?
Just degradation.
Sorry.
Clothes everywhere like a battlefield, wine stains looking like dried blood, and people mixed together, senators, their wives, slaves, all dignity gone. The Republic's elite, utterly debased.
And Caligula's reaction in the morning? Is he gloating, raging?
No, that's the chilling part. He appears, apparently, calm, almost administrator, as the guests are trying to pull themselves together, find their spouses, their clothes.
To give them a warning.
A subtle one, but deadly. What happens in the palace stays in the palace.
Like Vegas, but infinitely more sinister.
Exactly, but he clarifies why. It's not about loyalty to him. It's about their own self-preservation. He basically tells them, if you admit what happened here, you have to admit what you've become. And that confession would destroy your reputation, your position, more completely than any executioner's sword.
So they're trapped, they leave the palace, still senators in name, but now they're compromised actors in his ongoing play, his theater of degradation.
Completely compromised. They can never go back to who they were before that night.
Then there's silence for a few days.
3 days, the sources say. Imagine the Senate meeting during those days. The tension. Men avoiding each other's eyes. Knowing the senator next to you might have participated with your family member, or you with theirs. The paranoia must have been unbearable.
And then comes the summons back to the palace, the final act of this particular horror show.
Yes. The formal announcement. The divine union with his sister. She's given a new title. Diva, Drusilla Panthea. Universal, all-encompassing goddess.
Diva, so officially divine now.
Officially. And the ceremony itself is described as this weird blend. Egyptian elements, Greek ones, Roman ones, all mixed together, cementing their status as celestial beings, totally above mortal law.
And this declaration, this public ceremony, it sets the stage for the final decree, doesn't it?
It's the necessary legislative predicate, yes. The ceremony ends, and Caligula produces a scroll. It bears the official Senate seal.
But wait, did the Senate actually vote on this?
Crucially, no. No vote was ever taken. He just has the seal. And he announces this revolutionary new tax system, one that will permanently reshape Roman society.
Okay, what's the decree? The new tax?
All earnings from intimate commerce are now subject to imperial assessment, an official tax.
All earnings. What does intimate commerce cover?
It's deliberately broad. It includes licensed prostitutes, companions, yes, but also any person who receives compensation money, gifts, whatever, for physical affection or services.
And the rate?
1/12, payable directly to the imperial treasury.
It's the ultimate bureaucratic nightmare applied to vice.
It is. He's not just decriminalizing prostitution here, he's institutionalizing it, legalizing it, regulating it, making it a core part of the state economy.
And he frames this as a good thing.
Oh, yeah. He talks about bringing shadowy commerce into the light, increasing imperial revenue, making things orderly.
But there's a specific clause in there that's truly devastating to the Roman social structure, isn't there? About marriage.
That's the killer clause. The decree explicitly states that marital status offers no exemption.
Meaning,
structurally and legally, married women can now be compelled into this taxed profession.
Compelled.
Well, think about it. Their earnings are taxable, which means their husbands. They're transformed by imperial decree into agents of the state, responsible for ensuring the tax is paid.
They become pimps by law.
By imperial decree, yes. If a husband fails to account for his wife's intimate earnings, even if she was coerced, he is the one breaking the tax law. He's legally required to participate in and benefit from the system that destroys his own marriage bond, the very bond Flavius called sacred.
That is diabolical. Systemic destruction of the family unit through tax code.
And the bureaucracy kicks in immediately. It's terrifyingly efficient. Clerks are stationed at venues, brothels, maybe even bathhouses, who knows, with ledgers, scrolls, ensuring proper accounting.
And the palace brothel itself.
It expands. Operates with the efficiency of a government department. Pages running around, meticulous records kept. Architects are apparently already planning new temple brothels throughout Rome.
Temple brothels.
Oh.
Blending piety and state-regulated vice.
Into a single taxable service.
Exactly. This goes way beyond just being a tyrant. It's his whole philosophy laid bare.
It is. He sees citizens not as people, not as a populous Romanist, but as resources. Resources that serve the empire.
He even compared it favorably to slavery.
Yeah, he apparently argued the old system of debts and forced slavery was messy, barbaric. His way, this tax system, he claimed, was efficient, even equitable, because everyone benefits. The state gets revenue, the provider gets a share, the client gets the service.
It makes resistance almost impossible, doesn't it? How do you revolt against a system that's framed as economically beneficial, efficient, and tied to the emperor god's divine will?
You can't easily. Pleasure, in Caligula's new Rome, isn't just allowed. It's regulated, taxed, almost required. Family love is twisted into state commerce. Every private bond becomes subject to imperial oversight and taxation.
The corruption isn't chaotic anymore. It's the system. Calculated, bureaucratic, and restructuring the very soul of Roman morality. #TakeShagad outro.
So if we just step back and look at the arc of this one night, this one deep dive into the sources.
Yeah, what do we see?
We see Caligula taking apart the most sacred pillars of Roman life. Marriage, law itself, dignity, gravitas.
And not through random madness, which is the easy explanation.
Not at all, but through calculated, profitable, systematic regulation. He weaponized bureaucracy. He made vice inescapable, structured, and worst of all, he framed it as economically necessary. Patriotic, almost.
It makes you think about other moments in Roman history, doesn't it? Like the founding of the Republic itself.
Absolutely. That comparison is stark. Think back to the traditional story of Tarquin the Proud, the last king, and the rape of Lucretia.
Right, an individual act of horrific violence against one noble woman.
Yes, but that single act violated her dignity, her family's honor, so profoundly that it sparked a revolution. The citizens united, demanded justice, overthrew the monarchy, and founded the Republic to restore order and law.
But Caligula's tyranny, it's engineered differently.
Fundamentally differently. He didn't just commit individual acts of violence, though he certainly did plenty of those. He systematically weaponized human desire itself. He corrupted the system. So resistance isn't just treason against the emperor anymore. It's framed as financial irresponsibility, religious impiety, economic sabotage.
The senators who survived that night and the days that followed, they were utterly trapped.
Completely. How could they seek justice? They'd have to confess their own participation, their own degradation. That would destroy them just as surely as Caligula's executioners.
They're caught, aren't they? Choosing between political compliance, becoming part of this monstrous system, or committing social and political suicide by speaking out.
They've been fundamentally changed, not just broken, but transformed into people who now inhabit this new, terrifying reality where the old rules simply don't apply.
It leaves you wondering, what's left when the entire moral and legal structure is warped like this?
And that brings us to the final thought, maybe the only flicker of hope or perhaps defiance in the sources about this episode, something for you, the listener, to mull over. Caligula had managed to regulate, tax, corrupt, and control almost everything. Desire, law, religion, economics. But the sources hint there was one thing he hadn't yet found a way to tax or regulate.
Which is?
The simple human dignity of refusing to let horror become normal. That internal refusal. That quiet, private insistence that this is wrong even if you can't say it aloud, even if you're forced to comply outwardly.
So the provocative thought is, when the entire external framework of a society, its laws, its morals, its institutions has been dissolved or corrupted.
Yeah. Is that final internal refusal, that simple private dignity, that refusal to normalize the horrific. Is that enough? Can it save the soul of a state or an individual when everything else is lost?
A heavy question to leave with.
It is, but perhaps the most important one Caligula forces us to ask, something for you to carry forward.